It's Brainwash with Dr. Tom and Guitar Picks with Eric Perrotti. Jimi Hendrix, Little Wing.
See, I thought that was great, to go from Blue Skies to Little Wing, you know. Little Wing's been covered by many people, though, and I love Hendrix's version of his own song better than all the others. Example of this, Eric Clapton's I never enjoyed. Most people don't even know he did it, and Sting did Little Wing, and it wasn't that great, in my opinion, as much as I love him. Now, Stevie Ray Vaughan did Little Wing, and it was great. You know, it was something he didn't even intend to record. They just left the tape running when the band was playing it one night. And his biggest influence, Stevie Ray Vaughan's biggest influence, is Jimi Hendrix. See, I don't have any Stevie on this list, so that was kind of
I noticed that.
It's kind of a little thing there too. You know, I wanted to get him in some way or another, so I Little Wing it. But Hendrix is, I haven't played this in a while, so I don't know if I can still do it. I screwed up the beginning, but you know, hey, nobody plays that the same. Everybody does their own. What did I do wrong? It was like something in there. But but the Stevie Ray Vaughan version that he did of that was one of his favorite songs by his biggest influence ever. Again, he didn't intend to release it. They just left the tape running, and that was a live cut of that song, and it's one of his best things. But that's typical with the way music often works. And Jimi Hendrix, though, is really the bigger influence on that. I think in many ways, when I look at that song, the guitar parts, which I'm just chording, the intro is so interesting for its time period, late 60s, to hear something that was as involved as that. Usually a person would lay down a groove, a riff of like a something like that. He did this whole intro based on what would be the chord voicings to this song. The whole intro actually goes through the chords, the E minor, the G over to A minor, B minor is in there. I don't know if I'm doing it in order, but anyway. But then I think lyrically, it's real interesting. What was he on? Definitely something. But anyway, I like it lyrically, and I think it's contrary to what most people think about whether or not he could sing. Most people think he couldn't, and I just think that he just sang a certain way. I don't really think he ever really hit bad notes. They just sounded unique to the way he was, and they were a lot like his guitar playing. They had a lot of in the pocket feel the way he sang. So that song, that's one of the few songs of rock genre that I've actually wanted to learn how to play, but I learned how to play it about 15 years ago, and I probably haven't played it since. Figured it out and said, okay, there, I'm done.
It's Brainwash with Dr. Tom and Guitar Picks with Eric Perrotti, Antonio Carlos Jobim.
Did you know that's who wrote The Girl from Ipanema?
I did not.
He a Brazilian composer, pianist, that his music often has guitar. It had to have guitar because Brazilian music just has to do that. That song I've always loved as a child, and you reach a certain age where you're afraid to let people know that because you think it's elevator music, you know. But then all of a sudden things come back in vogue, and Brazilian music, I didn't realize how influential that type of music would be to me, especially as a guitarist, because it's there that you hear all these beautiful types of chords, almost always played on a classical guitar, like that. That's called the major ninth chord. It's just got great tonal quality, and the chords of that song are something like. And I love those kind of voicings of chords, and I write with those a lot as a result of hearing things like that. Some of the stuff that I write is real similar to that. I'll do things like. The one that I'm working on is like very Brazilian. chords like that. So I get a kick out of that song because to me it's the quintessential Brazilian song. There's so many, and Jobim's, his catalog goes on forever, and he was, one of the best. And that particular recording by the Stan Getz Group is the best-known recording of that song.
It's Brainwash with Dr. Tom and Guitar Picks with Eric Perrotti, Romanza.
That is, again, an anonymous piece that I have a recording of by Leona Boyd. I just like her recording of it. She was real influential to me in my early days of learning how to play classical guitar, and that was the first actual classical sort of piece I ever played. It's really a Spanish piece. One that you can do a tremolo with, which is this. Again, the first actual classical piece of repertoire I ever learned, and everyone knows it. It's one of those anonymous pieces that no one knows who wrote it, but it's been recorded probably more than a lot of, not any, Spanish piece of guitar music. And it goes by many names. I think on the Leona Boyd record it might be just called Spanish Romance, and it goes by that, or Romanza, or Romanza Antigua. Many titles, and it can be played really slow. You often hear it like this, or at the lightning speed. And it works in all those settings.
I noticed while you're playing that your fingernails differ in size and shape.
You mean from hand to hand?
Yes.
Yeah, the right hand is the one that actually strikes the strings, and the left hand is the one that presses them down. And in the right hand, that's an important thing, because some people play without them, and they do okay. One of the influences I have in here is a guy named Steve Howe, who played with a group called Yes, and their music was amazing. His music he did as a solo artist was amazing, and he never used fingernails to play his fingerstyle, and it always came off great, I thought. But you can vary your volume and your tone, because they act as picks. That's called a free stroke, where my fingers are just going freely into the palm of my hand, but there's rest stroke. It sounds more like a piano as opposed to that. So you can play things with rest stroke like. But the Romanza was more of the free stroke. Yeah, fingernails, you gotta have them, Yeah, I even file them.
Daily or whenever you need to,
No,
or how do you determine that?
I don't do it as often as I should, but 1 or 2 times a week. So that means they get way too long. When they get way too long, they don't work as well as they should. They're kind of in the way.
So on Monday you make your to-do list, and on Wednesday you got to do your nails.
And I usually get to them by Saturday. But otherwise you were exactly on target. So there you go. Good. Some people play with longer nails. Like the lady that I have the recording of this by, Leona Boyd, she plays with very long nails, but she actually strikes the string from the opposite direction of her fingernail, whereas most trained classical guitarists look at that as taboo. We don't do it. But when you hear her play, I have a tendency to forget that it even matters. She's just a great performer, and she always has been.